So we're here to solve this Minesweeper by Palmer Mebane. It's his 50th submission to the website and one of the first new puzzles we've gotten from Palmer in a while, but we're excited to have him back and to see the challenges that will come in the future. This can look pretty intimidating as Minesweepers go, and particularly because we just have runs of the same digit. Those runs tend to not have much, if any, information in a Minesweeper puzzle. We're more looking for spots like, say, this corner where we've got a small digit and a big digit, or even like this intersection point where we got a smaller digit with a larger digit and they touch directly adjacent, which means where this 2 sees 3 cells and this 4 sees 5 cells, there are more mines, at least 2, maybe all 3 on the side to kind of work with this. So this could be 1 with 3 or 0 of 2, but there are ways these clues, because they touch, influence adjoining sets of cells. And so the way I'll start is looking at this 1, 4, which was the first place my eye was drawn to because it's the largest delta of clues in a kind of knight's move radius anywhere else in the puzzle. The other largest digit of 5 is only around 3s, and all the remaining 4s are farther from the 1, so this is the biggest gap. 1 means there's only 1 cell in these 2 options, and so the 4 must have mines in the remaining 3 cells that don't share visibility with this. Putting those 3 in, we walk down 1 clue and see if there's 1 mine in these cells. We can then walk over 2 clues, take this one, we see 1 mine up here, and so we're going to actually have across these 4 cells a total of 3. That means from this clue's vantage point, 3 mines up above in this group, 1 here. That means that we now come to this clue, we've got 2 mines in that space. With this clue, this has 1 mine in this space. Look at this clue, this has 2 mines in this space. And that ends up with a single mine where this sees 2 up above, 1 down here, and a last one to finish that column. So that's it kind of tracking, and it may look like too much notation to you at some stage, really just marking the singleton, the singleton. These are probably more key, but this is one of the ways we get started here. We also haven't fully mapped it yet. In some ways, this mine here also is going to influence this column of clues, where we're going to have 2 in those 4 cells, exactly 1 in these cells, 2 more in these, 1 in these. And again, it's like this clue which sees that means there are 2 here. This clue which sees these, of course, is 1 here. In this space, we have a total of 2. But there's also this tension where we have a 2 next to a 3 in that adjoining space, which means that this group where the whole set of 4 cells has 2 mines, this top group can only have 0 or 1. You can't get a total of 2 up above, which means in this space, we're going to have 2 or 1. So 0, 2, and 1, 1 are the ways this looks. But in one form of the world, 2 is in that space. And that would even mean we have 0 down here. In another form, 1 is here. In the 0 world, we get 2 in this row and 1 down here. And as we keep propagating down, we get 0 and 1. And when we're putting 2 into the space, there's a version where this has 1 or 2 mines in it. So this is very, very more involved notation, but for this sort of puzzle, it looks like it's going to be pretty key to do. What I want to do at this point is, where we've looked a lot on the right side of the grid, come back to the left side of the grid. And there's not a strong tension point here, but there is actually a gimme clue. We got a 3 in the lower left corner with 3 white cells around it. Those all must contain mines. It completes this set as a 1. We can start to walk up this column in the ways we had before. We've got a mine in one of those cells. We've got a mine here. We're going to have 2 in these cells. We're going to have 1 here. We're going to have 1 in these spaces, 1 in this space, 1 in this space, and 1 in this space, which will finish that out. And this is going to be, looks like a harder stream to work through because there's a lot of choices and few mines. On this path, we're going to have 1 mine in those cells, 1 mine here, 2 mines here, 1 mine here, 2 mines here, 1 mine here, 2 mines here, and 1 mine here. And here we've already marked in this mine, so this is an X. This moves that over. And from these 2 starting points, you've now finished the lower right corner clue. And that's going to quickly now, and my notes almost make this impossible to see, but it now makes this key corner junction point an immediate solve. Marking this off is going to influence 1, 2, 3 mines straight away. And I'll just erase some of my notes here to help a bit. In the world where this row had 2, the row above it had 0. And that meant the row 2 above that had 2, and above that had 0. And above that had 2, and above that 1 more had 0. So these all flow immediately once we get this corner. This mine has to move to the right. This cell, which had 1 in these spaces, has to have a mine to the right. This 4 now is completed. This 4 needs to have 2 more mines. That finishes this 2. There's a single mine in these cells and another here. There's a mine in that cell. This 3 clue is complete, which now means as we get over to the center, now we've got a clue like this one, which has 1 mine, 2 empties. So it must take these 2 cells as mines. This 3 is complete. That means this 3 comes over to here, fills that in, this gets marked off, this gets marked in, this gets marked off, this gets marked in. So it looks like we finished the right side. Over here, we've got 1 mine in these cells. From this clue, seeing 2, 1 more to go. This 3 right next to it sees 1, and so also then has 2 over. So it's just all these adjoining sets that see the same kinds of things are what we're working through. Across these 3 cells, we're going to have 1 mine. Across these 3, we're going to have 2. Across these, we're going to have 1. Across these, we're going to have 2. Not as much we can kind of do moving left from there, but we also have some digits up top. Here, this clue here sees 1, 2, 1 more. This sees 1, 2 mines, so there's 1 mine here. 2 mines here. That means 1 mine in these 3 cells. So this clue is seeing 2 in that set of 3, 1 in the set of 3. That means through this clue, there are 2 in the set of 3, which means for the central cell, all its mines are on the right. And so again, it's communication from the grid. The information here is forcing a deduction there. And throughout this puzzle, what Palmer's put in are these uses of the frames to kind of get these locked sets to start pointing out. By the time we mark off this clue, we've left just enough space for this 2 to get its mines around it. That also marks this left and not right option is where the mine goes. There's 1 mine, but only 1 mine in these 2 cells. There's exactly this mine here, so that these clues all work out. In this space now, actually, where this is seeing 1 mine, across these cells it sees 2, but notice this 2 intersects this group of 1, so there's a mine here, there's a mine here in the intersection, but there's no mine at the top, so that those bridges cover the correct total number of mines. These 2 influence this clue, which sees 1 more. Trying to see if there's something stronger we can say with some of that. One thing is probably as we come back through the center, there's now going to be new constraints around these 3s based on some of the info we're putting into the grid. And let's see if we can find the place that's going to first show out. And maybe it's even worth coming down to these 4s. Like this space is also going to force into the upper left, so we might as well bank any information we know about it at this stage. If this is 1 mine in these cells, then a clue like this 4, which sees that mine, does not see anything there, sees 1 above it, and for sure sees all 3 cells below it. Marking these in finishes this clue, even finishes this clue. It does not yet finish that clue, so that comes over. This now is a case where this 4 sees 1, 2, 3, 4 mines already, so this is not a mine, but the mine comes down. That finishes off this option for the 1. This 4 sees all mines around, so that's not needed. This moves to the left. That now looks like it's going to force some important things. It's going to cancel off these cells, move this to the left. This 4 here sees 2 mines, needs to see 2 more. This 3 is seeing 3 mines, so we cancel off the cell. Got 1 to fill in here. We also functionally have 1 to fill in here. This 3 then sees 1, 2, 3 mines, doesn't see a mine here, so where this was a left-right option, it's now the left side where it goes. This 3 sees 2 in this space, so there's 1 in this space, which means there's 1 in this space, there's 1 in this space, 1 in this space coming up. That means over these cells, there's 1 more. This actually looks promising. There's, I think, a route where you come from the right over to this space, but you don't eliminate here. But once you get a 1 in one of these cells based off this 2 clue, it's going to cancel this stuff above on the 1. So this 1 sees those mines. And now there's this space for a 1, which from this clue, which means that over here, that doesn't see any further. And I bet once we do a little bit with the 2s, this will come back to help us. We're starting to eliminate enough up top that we can probably close across the top, so let's look at that for a bit. This 2 sees a mine in that remaining cell. This 2 sees a mine here, which means there's 1 here, which means there's 1 here, which means there's 1 here, which means across these there's 1, which means across these there's 1. This 4 cancels off this cell. So let's see what we can do at the very tippy top. There is 1 across these 2 cells, which means there's a mine here. This and this together are the map clue C's. This still has a little bit of flexibility, so not yet doing enough, but a good start here. We still need to resolve, though, a key placement in general, and I'm wondering where some set of what we've now marked through, including some of these options, is going to lead to some quick eliminations if certain scenarios played out. And this is where one of the things with this puzzle, there's so many places you can think you're making progress, you do want to be diligent in going back to spots you've looked at. So let's come back. I guess I'll come back to here, and maybe it's just even a good time to just erase a ton of the notes and kind of come back to new, fresh markings. For instance, this 3 needs to have 2 mines to its left. Those force a mine in one of these cells. That's going to finish off this clue. This 3 is seeing 2 or 3 mines in this space, but that's going to put attention here. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, but does not have a 5th mine from how we were describing it. And let's just confirm from the relative counts we're seeing, like 1, 2, that put that in. So this is right. So this was the key mine to get. This mine now actually means for this clue 1, 2, 3, this is not a mine. It means for this space, this is a mine. And where this had 3 mines around it, 1, 2, this for sure is the mine. So that marks off this. And that looks like it's going to give some more headway. Also, this mine being marked, moving into this, it cancels off this space, which means there's 1 mine here to go with the 1 mine there, where that means this bottom has 1 mine. Notice that these being vertical with an either or, and this being vertical with an either or, this also needs to have an either or. So we've got a left right or a left right, but we've marked that into the grid. This being a mine means this is also 1. Where's the key breakthrough going to be? This is still very close to what we're looking for. And I'm just seeing if there's a little more subtlety from what we've just marked in. That single 1, this is again either or in both directions. 1 will come down, so there's 1 mine in these cells. That means there's 1 mine in these cells, so this needs to have a bottom mine to then get 1, 2, 3 total, where the count of this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 in these rows. That cancels out this cell, marks in this, moves that over. That's helpful, but it's not really breaking through to the top of the grid. That's more cleanup for the bottom, but hopefully you're seeing how the notation is showing that as a useful point of progress. Here, though, now that we move this down, we've got only 1 here, and so this being the mine and not this being the mine looks like the next spot. That moves the mine up top, cancels this cell, and that now means there's a mine in one of these, cancels this for that option around the 1. That means where we've got around this, for instance, a cancel here. This now does the right and left version. If this cell canceled, this 2 is finished, this mine comes over, this 2 is finished, this mine comes over. This 2 only has 1 more spot to take, but that finishes out this clue, which moves this over. This 2 is finished, so this 1 comes up top. Cancels this cell, the mine comes down to this space, cancels that option, the mine moves to the left. This 2 is finished, but this 3 needs a mine here. That finishes out these 2s. This 2 cancels this cell, so this goes to the bottom, this goes to the top, but again, either or to finish those clues out. Clue like this now needs it to the top to get to 3, moves this to the bottom over here. This clue has all 3 around it, so that should be the last mine on the puzzle. I'll just do a quick scan as if this were a competition entry, and I don't see anything missing, but the judges will figure out how to interpret the look of some of these notations, so sometimes you'll clean this up. But this was a bit of a workout. It had a lot of the same kind of thinking throughout the whole solve, particularly getting some of these seeds started and then working through the constraints on sums as you work down the columns or even across in the rows, where we've got so many similar digits that 1 in these cells means 1 in these cells means 1 in those cells, just in how groups of 3 cells apart will always be the same locked pairs if they're communicated. So with that as a walk through this puzzle, we hope you got something out of the video solve, and we'll see you again soon.